Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, December the 10th, 2024. It's 9 a.m. and we're in the central jury room of the Ralph H. Walton Jr. Justice Center at 1200 West Pearl Street in Granbury, Texas. We're very pleased to have with us today Ms. Kim Irwin, who's the Executive Director of the Brazos Pregnancy Clinic, to give us the invocation. She's also joined here by her husband, too, for support.
Would you please join me in prayer? Holy Lord God, I thank you, Father, for this beautiful day that you've given us and that you've covered Granbury with the sunshine. Thank you, Father. I thank you for all of these commissioners that have come up here today, all of these people that work in your service, Lord God, that they make Granbury a better place. I pray that you watch over them, keep them safe, keep their minds clear, help them to be strong and faithful to you, Lord God. I pray for all the citizens that are here today, Lord Jesus, that you watch over them, keep them safe, help this city to continue to be well. Help us to have good fellowship with each other, Lord Jesus, as this is the season that we are here for you, Lord God. Thank you for this day. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
All right. So, Ms. Welborn, we have no special presentation, no service awards, okay? And there's no citizens sign up to make comments at large. Am I right on that, Ms. Miller? No comments, all right? So we're into the miscellaneous business to be discussed. Item number 1, discuss and take appropriate action to authorize the county judge to sign the service order from Spectrum to replace existing Windstream lines onto our Spectrum network. This will account for an additional $79.98 per month. We have here, Mr. Owen, here, our good IT department. Yes, sir.
Hi there. So this item is just to replace, we've got, I believe it was 1 phone and 2 fax lines that were still under Windstream. This is to get them all tied into our Spectrum so they fully work with all of our, systems and all that. And so it's pretty much just to keep everything in line with all the rest of the county and not having just 2, random ones sitting on a contract. Because the problem with this is we got notice that the contract was expiring, I think probably about a week before it was out, and by the time it got to us from Windstream, we only had 1 day to sign it before it was going to be end of service and it would have to be redrawn again. So
This is a good deal.
Yes, sir.
You got the money in your budget to pay for it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I hear a motion.
I'll make the motion to authorize the county judge to sign the service order from Spectrum to replace existing Windstream lines onto our Spectrum network. This will account for an additional $79.98 a month.
Made by Commissioner Andrews to authorize the county judge to sign a service order from Spectrum to replace the Windstream lines onto the Spectrum network at $79.98 per month. Second by Commissioner Wilson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 2, discuss and take appropriate action to authorize the county judge to sign the voice and trunk service letter of authorization to trunk the new Spectrum line into our system. This agreement does not include any pricing. Yes, sir.
So this is the next step in the process, and this is essentially just saying that they can tie in the new phone numbers into our fiber SIP line and all that. So this is just really the next process saying, yes, we are saying that we do want to add these numbers into our block of numbers.
Okay. No additional costs, right?
Nope. No, sir.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Yes, I move that we approve and authorize the county judge to sign the voice and trunk service letter of authorization to trunk the new Spectrum line into our system. This agreement does not include any pricing.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
A motion been made by Commissioner Wilson to authorize the county judge to sign the voice and trunk service letter of authorization to the new Spectrum line into our system that does not include any pricing, second by Commissioner Samuelson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Judge and
All right.
Commissioners.
Item number 3, discuss and take appropriate action to confirm the Senate Bill 22 Grant Fund Use Plan submitted by the County Attorney's Office in accordance with the grant criteria, which will be administered through separate fund accounts with all appropriate expense lines, including salary, benefits, and other necessary expense lines as determined by the county auditor. Yes, sir. Mr. Mills and Sheriff Deeds.
Okay, so this is basically a creative way to help the sheriff's office, not really for my office. They had asked for 1 or 2 investigator positions in the last budget that they didn't get. We got $275,000 from the state for the Senate bill money for our office, which we are able to spend on investigators. And as you recall, I only spent about 30-something thousand initially just for a part-time clerk and a couple of small raises. So we were basically planning to give back $240-ish thousand to the state of money that they have already sent to us. So the idea here is that we would hire 2 investigators just to do misdemeanors. They would office with us. They would be under my budget. They'd be my employees, but they would be assigned cases on the front end to do investigations for misdemeanors. And what that would do is free up the sheriff's office to focus basically on felonies. As far as the personnel and the spending of the Senate bill money, I would think that that part of it would be the no-brainer part. The tricky part is mainly vehicles and equipment, but the sheriff can speak to that because, I mean, he knows their fleet and stuff better than I do. I spoke with Stephanie about it. I spoke with Glenn about it. I mean, there's ways to keep it as a one-time shot, you know, to spend a little bit of money for up front, and then that won't be a recurring deal every year. But that's kind of, I guess I'll let the sheriff speak to that, and then y'all can ask him questions about how that would go. But, I mean, we have a few options about how we can fund some of those additional things, because the Senate bill specifically says not to spend on software, equipment, et cetera. So we can spend benefits and salary, but not the other things. So
About office space, do you have space for these 2 folks?
it's going to be tight. I'm not going to love that, but yes, we could do that.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to jump in.
Yeah, this is a great thing because we have a bunch of misdemeanor calls that need to be investigated properly. So this is definitely going to help my department with being able to just focus on the felonies, but it's going to be one big team. If they need anything, everybody's going to work together. But them being able to focus on the misdemeanors is going to help us a bunch. So he's going to steal one of my investigators, so he'll come with a vehicle and whatever else he needs, and then if for the other one, then we'll figure it out with a pool car, a training, go to training classes car or something, till we can figure out anything better. And you know, I'm willing to help in any way. As far as the office space, I got like 3 or 4 people in the same size space that he's going to have 2 people. So hey, they'll feel like they got all kinds of elbow room compared to what I got in my building. So yeah, I think it's a great thing to do it, and more investigators working on more stuff to get things done for the citizens of this county.
During budget, you had actually requested to have an additional financial crime investigator specifically as one of the things that you were
And that's the
looking
one
for.
he's stealing from me, but
Yeah, so this, I'm glad this option presented itself because that is, gosh, all of a sudden I'm covered up in this particular situation, and I think that by using the Senate Bill 22 money for the county attorney's office to hire these investigators, this is a great plan. It helps everybody out, and it gives us the investigative power we need there. So,
I would like to have some budget earmarked for some of those extras that, like I said, can pretty much be a one-time, one-year deal. I spoke to Stephanie about that yesterday. There's about $500,000 in that one account from the appraisal district. Again, I'm not an expert on what the sheriff's fleet is and the vehicles available, but I mean, it would seem that maybe what we could do as a middle ground is be able to get one new vehicle and basic rigging. It doesn't have to be rigged out, outfitted like a patrol type vehicle, but just some basics and then just some basic equipment. I mean, I feel like we could do that based on conversations I had this morning with Glenn and Stephanie. If we had a number, let's say not to exceed 55,000, and again, that's just a one-year deal. I would like to do that, and then we would only be taking one car from them instead of two. I don't know if the sheriff wants to speak to that, but I mean, that seems like a decent middle ground where we're keeping the cost real low. And again, we don't have to do that year after year.
I don't know if that's on today's agenda. It sounds like you need to bring those extra expenses back because this is SB 22. If we want to talk about using some funds out of HCAD refund or contingency for other things, office equipment, vehicles, that might need to come back with an exact number.
Well, okay, so first of all, the agenda item states necessary expense lines as determined by the county attorney. So,
County
I mean, our county auditor, my bad. Yeah, I wish. So, I mean, I feel like agenda-wise, we're okay. I mean, you could draw a parallel between, I have a supplies budget, I have a travel budget. I don't line item before the fiscal year every ink cartridge that we buy, et cetera. You just basically say, here's your supplies, try to be conservative, don't be stupid, and, get what you need. So, I mean, I feel like based on the conversations with Glenn this morning and Stephanie, that if we do no more than 55,000 out of that account, we can come back and spend within that. Or, I mean, we can come back on the 20th and however you want to do it. But I kind of want an agreement in principle to, hey, we're going to try to fund this, would be all I would ask, really.
I don't necessarily see a problem with that, but I do think that it would probably be better, because that's typically how we buy vehicles and stuff, is out of Fund 55 with a quote and everything
That's fine.
beforehand. So, yeah, I mean, I would, yeah, obviously you're going to need some vehicle there, but.
But there might also be a need for desks, because there was a recent situation where there wasn't a desk available, so you might need other things to help to make sure these people have what they need to do their job.
Yeah.
Especially computers and things, so.
Yeah, well, I think we're okay. We could move some things around in our office and cover that. We may need like one more laptop or something, but I think that part is minimal, and we could probably just about cover that with our existing budget.
Okay, good.
I'm not too worried about that part.
Okay.
It's really the car.
I think it's a great idea, so I'm glad you came up with this.
Okay. Well, yeah, with that, I'll make a motion to confirm the Senate Bill 22 grant fund use plan submitted by the county attorney's office in accordance with the grant criteria, which would be administered through separate fund accounts with all appropriate expense lines, including salary, benefit, and other necessary expenses as determined by the county auditor.
Second.
Motion been made by Commissioner Andrews to confirm the Senate Bill 22 grant fund use plan submitted by the County Attorney's Office in accordance with the grant criteria, which will be administered to the separate fund accounts with all appropriate expense lines, including salary, benefits, and other necessary expense line as determined by the county auditor, second by Commissioner Samuelson. Any further comment? If not,
Excuse me, do we need to include that 55,000?
No, we said they would bring that back.
anything else? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen. This is going to be a big help to the community. All right, item number 4, discuss and take appropriate action to allow the county judge to sign the contract to perform arbitrage rebate services between Hood County, Texas, and Hilltop Securities Asset Management, LLC, and allow the payment of $1,400 from General Administration Contract Services. Yes, ma'am. Yes, please. Yeah. If anybody can explain arbitrage, I know that's you. That's your strong suit. So go ahead.
Good morning. So this is actually an agreement with Hilltop Securities, who does our financing. They have another arm in their division to help us stay compliant with our tax note proceeds, because we've ordered all these vehicles and there's some lead time in there. We're gaining interest on those funds, so it's just to make sure that we stay compliant with IRS regulations. He actually said he's going to bill us prorated for the year, so it won't be the full $1,400. It'll be a little less. But anyway, so this is just an agreement for them to do the figuring and keep us out of hot water.
Yeah, this is necessary to keep us out of trouble.
That's right.
So, all right. Based upon that, I hear a motion.
Make a motion to allow the county judge to sign the contract to perform arbitrage rebate services between Hood County, Texas, and Hilltop Securities Asset Management, LLC, to allow the payment of $1,400 from General Administration Contract Services.
Second.
Motion been made by Commissioner Samuelson to allow the county judge to sign the contract to perform arbitrage rebate services between Hood County and Hilltop Securities Asset Management, LLC, and allow the payment of $1,400 from General Administration Contract Services, second by Commissioner Wilson. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimous 5-0. Item number 5, discuss and take appropriate action to approve the resolution supporting statewide funding for a rural ambulance service. Boy, what?
Drew, or I don't know, is Drew over there? Owen, if you could pull up the resolution while we talk about it, that would be great. So, we just talked about SB 22. What this is to ask the legislature to pass an similar type grant funding for rural ambulance services. And so this is, Commissioner Andrews and I worked together on this. This is something that many counties are doing, rural counties, to request the funding so that we can have additional, make sure that our ambulance services stay solvent and able to help people. If we want to, do you want to read through it? I can read it if people can't see it. Whereas in many rural communities in Texas, the EMS responders might be the only health care provider in the community, and whereas EMS is not designated as a mandatory service for state and local governments, however, many rural counties attempt to manage the development, funding, and maintenance of EMS with declining resources. Whereas staffing shortages, declining insurance reimbursements, uninsured patients, expanding areas to provide service, and acquiring updated equipment are issues that amplify and challenge the challenges of providing rural EMS. And whereas according to a nationwide study on access to timely ambulance service, Texas ranks near the top in terms of rural residents living in ambulance deserts, creating excessive, lengthy response times. And whereas Texas has experienced many rural hospital closures, and once a rural hospital closes, the local EMS agency is often the only remaining emergency health care provider. And whereas volunteer services are phasing out with the aging population of volunteers, while the younger population in the community commutes to distant employment or moves to urban areas, leaving few replacements. And whereas urban residents and their families depend on rural EMS when traveling throughout Texas, making access a statewide issue. Now therefore be it resolved that the Hood County Commissioners Court hereby supports and favors the passage of a legislation to provide statewide funding to support and enhance rural EMS for all Texans, and that copies of this resolution be transmitted to Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, Senator Birdwell, State Representative Shelby Slauson, and any other state official deemed appropriate by this court. So this is basically the same resolution that many other rural communities are putting forward so that we can, as a group of rural Texas counties, we can ask the state legislature to provide this funding, similar to the SB 22 that we just talked about with the sheriff and the county attorney.
Yeah, and this is not only focused here on Hood County, but also we all travel. If you travel out to West Texas, there are places out there where you're, an hour and a half from an ambulance, and that's if it's not already on a run somewhere else. So this is, it is statewide coverage, but it would also be a big impact here in Hood County as well. So.
Reeves, you want to come on up and speak? This is Ricky Reeves, who runs the EMS service up here. You need a little extra money, don't you? You wouldn't turn down any extra money, would you?
Always. I want to give you a little update on the progress of this topic. So we met with, the group met with the governor and got positive feedback from that. So right now we're looking at Senator Perry, Representative Craddock, and Representative King are the ones that are really supporting this and pushing it. So right now we're waiting on the Legislative Council to actually give us the draft bill of what this would look like. Once we get that, then we can disseminate that out to everyone, and then we can really do a grassroots effort to try to get that supported by all of our senators and representatives. It will mimic pretty much Senate Bill 22, same population, 300,000. And that eliminates about 19 counties out of the 254 counties. So Dallas, Tarrant, Collins, those kind of. So it is something needed. It will, different than 22, this will actually come back through the Commissioner's Court to the judge to be administered and not somewhere else in another agency. Right now you apply to the state for the funding on this. This will come back differently, or we're asking that to be done. So there is some movement on it. We just don't know what the legislative session's going to bring problems and issues that we may not be able to overcome with this. And then I think they're trying to do the same thing with volunteer fire department.
Legislatively, a lot has been done which actually hampers your ability to collect on things and to, the most EMS services, we're very lucky here in Hood County to not actually have any kind of subsidize for our EMS services. We're the only county around that I can find that particular
There are very
situation.
few in the state of Texas. There are 780 licensed providers in Texas, and we're one of one or two that have been doing this for 23 years without a subsidy. So there are obstacles. Everything named in that resolution are impacting all agencies to be able to provide those services. Like you said, frontier and rural, really West Texas, it's even more difficult. So a lot of hospitals are closing, a lot of rural hospitals are downsizing, and so your EMS agency becomes that hospital. And so when they leave the county to go somewhere else with a patient, you're left uncovered. There are a lot of deserts in Texas. So we're hoping to get ahead of that.
I attended a legislative conference back in August down in Austin, and this is a topic that's working its way to the top of the heap. So I'm hoping that, we can get somewhere with this. I know a resolution is just asking for something, but I think getting the legislature's attention is I know that tax on top of this is pretty big too, so.
It is, and then hopefully have, if we have a surplus funding like we did last session, maybe we can get this done a little easier. The governor and lieutenant governor both know, I sit on the board of our statewide agency, and we push every year funding issues, the reimbursement issues. So it's well known that EMS in Texas, with the staffing issues and all, is becoming a catastrophic event in a lot of rural areas. So we're trying to prevent that and do what we can to help it. Any questions from me?
You do a great job.
Thank you.
Great job.
I'll make the motion to approve the resolution supporting statewide funding for rural ambulance service.
Second.
Samuelson to approve the resolution supporting statewide funding for rural ambulance service, second by Commissioner Andrews. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously 5-0. Next item, 6, discuss and take appropriate action to approve the resolution supporting statewide funding for rural volunteer fire departments.
All right, this is a very, very similar situation, and there are a lot of areas very similarly that don't have a rigorous volunteer fire department in that area. And this is a resolution asking for the similar Senate Bill 22 to be directed toward bolstering those volunteer fire departments in rural communities. So I'll read that. Whereas rural volunteer fire departments play a critical role in ensuring the safety and well-being of communities by providing essential fire protection and emergency services, and whereas these departments often operate with limited resources, relying heavily on volunteer personnel who dedicate their time and efforts to protect lives and property, and whereas rural areas face unique challenges including longer response times, limited funding, and difficulty recruiting and retaining volunteers, which can hinder the effectiveness of fire protection services, and whereas the safety of our communities hinges on the capability and support of these volunteer fire departments, which often serve as the first responders in emergencies such as wildfires, tornadoes, and other disasters. And whereas the lack of adequate funding, training, equipment, and community support negatively impacts the ability of these departments to respond to emergencies effectively, and whereas the increased exposure to lithium fires, more assistance from the state is needed with regard to funding protective measures for all first responders that now must deal with lithium fires from automobiles to charging stations, and whereas it is essential to promote broader public awareness and appreciation of the invaluable services rendered by volunteer fire departments, and whereas the investment in training, equipment, and resources for rural volunteer fire departments is necessary to improve emergency response capabilities and ensure community safety. Now therefore be it resolved that the Hood County Commissioners Court hereby requests that the Texas Legislature provide funding and grants to positively impact the sustainability of rural volunteer fire departments, and that copies of the resolution be transmitted to Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, Senator Brian Birdwell, State Rep Shelby Slauson, and other state officials deemed appropriate by this court. So,
all agree that we can get some more help for our rural volunteer fire department. That's a good thing. So, really good thing.
very fortunate around here, and a little funding would go a long way to keep that going. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution supporting statewide funding for rural volunteer fire departments.
Second.
Motion been made by Commissioner Andrews to approve the resolution supporting statewide funding for rural volunteer fire departments, second by Commissioner Wilson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously 5-0. Item number 7, discuss and take appropriate action to approve the resolution to request dissolution language amendment to Special District Code 1042-Hood County Hospital District. Commissioner Samuelson.
Thank you. This is another resolution to request changes to legislation. In speaking with the a couple of attorneys that are familiar with special district legislation. It is unusual to have a special district without dissolution language. If the legislature acts on this request, it would give the hospital district the ability to act if needed in the future. This may never need to be used, but not having the ability limits the options available to the hospital district. The timing is critical because we have a legislative session only every 2 years, and if it doesn't get added this year, it won't be added until, or it wouldn't have another opportunity to be added until 2027 before we could ask for it again. And it's better to have the option and not need it than not have the option at all. This doesn't preclude the hospital district from adopting the same or similar resolution. In fact, quite the contrary, it would be more powerful if both entities came together and requested the same enabling legislation be changed to add the dissolution language. I think it strengthens our position. So that's why it's on here. It doesn't, it's just adding, it's just requesting legislation to be added. And do we have any speakers on this one?
Okay, we do have a speaker, Ms. Christy Massey, the president of the Hood County Hospital District. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I've been on the hospital district for 18 years. The hospital district was established in 1971 by voting of this people in this county. It is a separate entity. It is not a part or a subdivision of the Hood County Commissioners Court. Now, all 5 of you are on the board, the hospital district board, and you can vote however you want to, because this is going to be on the agenda next week's meeting, the 20th. But the hospital district is a separate entity. We will take care of this ourselves. The Hood County Commissioners Court is not in charge of us, and we will do what is best for the Hood County Hospital District. And that's all.
This is a very, this is a tar baby. There is
I know.
just all kinds of issues surrounding this. These lines do get a little blurry between the 5 members up here also serving on the hospital district.
Yeah, but there's 4 more of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is legislation that has created a separate political subjurisdiction of the state. And I don't know, I believe that this would be more appropriate to ask in support of a hospital district resolution as opposed to leading the way on it. So I would be more comfortable with this being after if the hospital district chose to go that way. There are, boy, the situation here is there are a lot of things that, you know, legally, I don't know how to get a grasp on. The language creating the hospital district says that it shall pass a tax to pay for the indigent care
Correct.
of the citizens of Hood County. Senate Bill 2 came along later, and the language in it actually prevented us at this point from being able to pass that tax. We put it on the ballot, and that measure failed. But now, I don't know as though this situation is so unique and so uncommon. It's not like there's any precedents out there for this. How many hospital or how many taxing entities don't charge a tax? So, and then Senate Bill 2, before Senate Bill 2, there was a de minimis tax that a taxing jurisdiction could come and put into place, but Senate Bill 2 took that away from special districts. So there are several laws at conflict here, and we end up kind of in the void in between in a very peculiar and unique situation. So I don't know as though asking for an attorney general opinion is out of line on this. I think that might be a very appropriate step for us to take to generate that. And looking in code, you can ask for that. I don't know, I mean, there are some other county auditors can, although we're back to those blurry lines about where the hospital district starts and the county it ends, you know. Same with the county attorney. So I think maybe we should push this off until a determination is done by the hospital district, and then figure out how to
it will be on the hospital
move.
district's board agenda for next Friday, which is the 20th, which will be at the Annex 1 meeting room, but it'll start at noon, not at noon, it'll start at 1 o'clock so that y'all can get finished with your agenda that morning.
How long, okay, the thing that I'm worried about is the time that it takes, you know, to get an Attorney General opinion and how long we have to get information to our legislature for them to start the conversation. So, like you said, this is a very unique, we are the only hospital district in Texas that has the 5 members of the Commissioners Court on the board. So and we're probably the only one that's not currently taxing. So there's a lot of, as you say, unusual circumstances in this situation. We just need to get the ball rolling so that we don't end up in a situation where we don't have the funds either at the county level or at the hospital district to support indigent care. And that's why I put it on here, to get this going so that legislature's only going to meet for a certain amount of time, and they probably already have. I don't know if anyone already knows the count, but probably 8,000 bills filed already. And while normally things that affect only a specific county or district seem to fly through, they don't always. And I'm just worried that we'll come up to a situation where we'll lose our window of opportunity, and then we won't have another opportunity for 2 more years, and not knowing what could happen. In the meantime, we need to be able to provide funding to support indigent care. And so that's why I'm pushing to do something now versus wait. And so
I agree that the ball needs to be rolling, but the ball belongs to the hospital district, not the Commissioner's Court. And that we will throw that ball up on the 20th to see which direction it's hit, as a home run or back there.
And I don't disagree with that. If the hospital district so chooses to pass a resolution asking for the dissolution language,
Yes.
that can be sent in on the 20th after the hospital district meeting, and then we can meet again later. And if we determine so on this board, then we can do a supporting resolution to say, yes, we concur with that. Because it is Commissioner's Court business, because if the hospital district does decide, or, boy, that's a terrible way of saying that. If that's, if there is some dissolution there, what happens then?
If the hospital district runs out of money,
Right.
indigent care is dumped on y'all.
Well, but I don't know if even that's the truth, because it is a separate entity created for that purpose. It is no longer,
So why would we not go ahead and ask for a Attorney General opinion through our county attorney the way we normally do?
I don't know as though it's necessarily county business. I mean, county does have, but it may not. There may be some provision in law that says something has to happen to support the hospital district, that it can't fall back on the county. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because, I mean, in the end, counties are required to provide indigent care. So in this case, there's been a special district created to do that. But
Since 1971.
yeah, so if that,
Before you were born.
well, I wish, but thank you. So if that was, if that, for whatever reason, ceased to exist, then you're saying it wouldn't fall back on the county?
I don't know. I think there is enough, murky water, nuance, whatever term you want to plug in there, that I don't know as though that necessarily with the creation of the hospital district, voters approved that legislation. I don't know as though that necessarily means that the county, it gets dumped back on the county if the district becomes insolvent. I don't know. I think these are some questions that digging into this thing aren't real clear. So
Where do you think it's going to go, Commissioner?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's a legislatively created body, and so what happens now? So I think that, I think that just intuition would tell you that, yes, it does come back to the county because the Constitution mandates that counties provide that, but with a separately created.
So I know where this is headed. So I'm going to go ahead and say what I think, because I agree with Commissioner Samuelson. I disagree with you, Commissioner Andrews. This is only asking for enabling legislation to add a sentence or a provision in the statute that's not there right now.
Right.
To, if we choose or if we need to, it gives the legislature, or it gives us the power to dissolve the hospital district. And it is, I disagree with you that this is only hospital district business and not county commissioner's business, because you already testified that we're all on that board. And we're forced to be on that board.
But we call you Dave Eagle, not commissioner, and he's.
Okay, well, if you want to nuance that, but this is just a resolution.
They don't call me president. They
May I
call me
speak
Christie.
till I get through, and then you can speak, please?
Yes, sir.
So this is just a resolution. The legislature meets on January the 14th or 15th, and it's about a 3-month session. We can ask for an AG opinion, and I certainly want to do that because I know that this resolution is getting ready to fail. So I would like to at least get an AG opinion started, and if we miss this session, then we got to wait 2 more years, and I don't know what's going to happen as far if we don't have any money, right? We're running out of money, is that correct?
1 more year.
And we lost the
election.
tax increase to put a 2-cent tax on the voters failed. So the inevitable thing right now as we stand at this moment is the hospital district is headed towards failure, right? It's going to be out of money. So where does it go? It's going to come right back to the county commissioners because we are the business of the county. So I would like to see an AG opinion get started on this to see, because all it is basically allows us to dissolve it, that we don't have. I don't know what would happen when you run out of money. I guess it'll just be sitting there without at least an ability to sunset it. Nearly every bill has a sunset. Every organization has a sunset. Why it didn't get put on this one is beyond my comprehension.
You weren't in this county at that time.
That's all. I'm sorry?
I said you weren't in this county at that time, in 1971?
Well, of course I wasn't. What does that have to do with this right now? Anyway, whatever.
I don't really see, yes, thank you for putting it on the agenda for next Friday, but I don't really see why we can't do this now, because this is just, as Commissioner Eagle said, this is just asking for language to be added. And then you can do the same thing or a different resolution with similar language. It doesn't matter. It just gives it more strength to send to our legislators to say both entities that are involved in providing indigent care would like to have this option available if needed. So with that, I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution.
Let me say something.
Oh,
I want
okay.
to say something first. We do have another option. The hospital has been trying to negotiate with the hospital district an additional term to the 12 years that they have under the lease that was negotiated back in 1996. There's 2 years left on the primary term, and there are 2 5-year options that they've already elected to take. So we do know that for the next 12 years, Community Health Services will have the use of the hospital and premises here in Hood County. They want an additional term added to those years because of the capital expenditures that they are and have been committed to Hood County. And I mean by other buildings like the new emergency health care that's been out on Fall Creek Highway and a bunch of buildings that are around in the hospital districts themselves. They have come back and made an offer of certain years added to the lease for a certain amount of money, which has been kind of informally discussed because we were waiting to see what would happen to the bond that was going to be put out for vote. I mean, the exact same situation happened in Parker County that happened in Hood County, except the Parker County Commissioners Court kept the hospital tax. And because they kept the hospital tax, Parker County has about $90 million for their hospital, and as Ricky well aware of this, their paramedics and ambulance and stuff like that they could provide for their citizens. In Hood County, they reduced the hospital tax to zero. If they'd have just kept 2 cents or 3 cents, we'd have had plenty of money. But there is another option, and I'm very confident that it's going to be to the benefit of all of Hood County for us to enter into an additional lease with the hospital, and that would be done with the Hood County Hospital District and the Community Health Services, and not anything to do with Hood County. So that's in the process, and we're in the process of it, and that negotiations will get very serious after the first of the year. So we do have enough money to run for about another year, but I'm pretty confident that an additional lease will be entered into because it's to everybody's advantage. Community Health Service has a huge stake in this community and want to keep their presence. And of course, we want to keep a good hospital and providing a good hospital for all our citizens up here. And anyway, that's what I have to say. So we're not under the real either or, as Commissioner Samuelson and Commissioner Eagle have stated. That's not the case. So we do have that. Yes, ma'am.
May I ask one question? This resolution that you guys want to do, does it permit the Hood County Commissioners Court from dissolving the hospital district?
No, this is just adding legislation, or asking for wording to be added to 1042, which is the enabling
Okay.
legislation for the
And that is
hospital
what
district.
we would do
And
as
then
a hospital
the
district.
Yes, if it were added.
Because it's our ball, not
yes,
yours.
if it were added, it would be up to the hospital district to
Yes.
act on that.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else? Can I sit down?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, let me ask this. Could we contingently approve this resolution? Again, I feel like we're getting kind of the cart before the horse here. Could we say, yes, we will submit this resolution for the sake of time, because the timing is critical. We will submit this resolution in support of a resolution passed by the hospital district. So in other words, we hold on to this until after the meeting on the 20th, and if the hospital district says, yes, we're going to pass a resolution to ask for this supporting, or to ask for a similar dissolution language, then we send it in support of the hospital district's resolution.
Sure, I'm fine with that. I'll
Okay.
make that motion.
I'll
I
second
think that's
that.
confusing. I think I'd rather wait until after the hospital district acts.
Well, but that would put us into January the 14th.
Yeah, we got
And I
it.
think that it is, the timing is somewhat critical here, so.
And from a practical standpoint, if we're getting this resistance right now, what makes you think the hospital district is going to pass this next week? You know, that's just my comment.
Always have the option of a special call session meeting to discuss it.
So I'll make the motion to approve the resolution to request dissolution language amendment to be added to the Special District Code 1042 Hood County Hospital District, which will be in support of a pending resolution from the hospital district.
Contingent upon that approval.
Yes, but if that fails, we may be having a special called meeting.
I would be okay with that. But this we only send if the hospital district passes a resolution asking for the dissolution language. You good with that?
Clerk, do you have that?
Okay,
Do
then
you have it
I'll
down?
second that.
Alicia, do you have it down? Okay, a motion been made by Commissioner Samuelson to approve the resolution of correct dissolution language amendment to the Special District Code 1042, the Hood County Hospital District, subject to what the hospital district is going to do with their meeting that's going to be held
The 20th?
the 20th of December at 1 p.m. at Annex Number 1, second by Commissioner Andrews. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Nay.
Aye.
Motion, did you vote?
Yeah, yeah.
So motion carries 3-2. Okay. Item number 8, convene into executive session, discuss possible real estate properties. No action be taken. That's going to come at the end of the miscellaneous business because we have another executive session, item number 13. So then that brings us to item number 9, discuss and take appropriate action to allow payment of the 2022 invoice for the Xerox copier for JP2 in the amount of $1,128.65 from the 010-4090-49700 contingency account. Ms. Auditor, also known as Stephanie Matlock.
Hello. So it's been brought to my attention that we have an outstanding invoice for JP2. It's been an ongoing thing, I guess, when we switched from one copier company to another, there was a little bit of a lag between these pieces of equipment. And so there was a credit issued for this dollar amount, but the invoice that went with that credit was not supplied to the auditor's office until pretty far after that. So that credit was applied to the ongoing invoices and then not to net zero the swap of the equipment. And so it's just been rolling for years. And so I would like to get rid of this and move forward. They don't have enough in their budget to keep the copier they have now and pay for this. And it was in 2022. So this is just a housekeeping thing. I don't believe they've used those funds back in those days for something crazy. I think it just got missed. So.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, so that's a general contingency fund and admin fund. So I would like to clear this off and move forward.
Yeah, good. Do I hear a motion?
I move that we allow the payment for the 2022 invoice for the Xerox copier for JP2 in the amount of $1,128.65 from the 010-4090-49700 contingency account.
Second.
By Commissioner Wilson to allow payment of the 2022 invoice for the Xerox copier for JP2 in the amount of $1,128.65 from that contingency account. Second by Commissioner Eagle. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously 5-0. Item number 10, discuss and take appropriate action to authorize the county clerk's office to purchase signature facsimile stamps for incoming district clerk in an amount up to $2,500 to be paid out of an account to be determined by the auditor and reimbursed by the district clerk's office once the new district clerk takes office. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is just, we have a new district clerk coming in on January the 1st, and she's going to need signature stamps for all her office, and she'll need them on January the 1st. So we weren't sure what account to take them out of, and I don't think it's going to be $2,500. I think it's going to be, I know when the new county clerk came in, it amounted to about $1,800 for all the facsimile stamps. So I've got it up to $2,500, but I think it's going to be less than that. But we just need to know what account to take that out of.
And I think part of what came up here is Hood County has a policy limiting the sitting elected official on how much they can spend before January 1st. And this would push her over that limit. But after talking to her, if we say that, or if we put on hold that particular policy, then we could go ahead and just do this out of the district clerk's budget and put it in the right place where it belongs anyway. It's our policy that's preventing this from just happening through the district clerk's office. So if we just suspend that policy in this particular case, we can just go about business. Correct? Glenn, you're kind of.
Yes, and I believe the policy actually allows for the court to vote to approve exceptions to that.
I hear a motion.
What's the account number? Which account?
If you take it out of the district clerk supply line,
Yes.
All right, well, let me,
direct method.
okay, let me amend, let me make a motion then. I move that we authorize the county clerk's office to purchase signature facsimile stamps for the incoming district clerk in an amount of up to $2,500 to be paid out of an account from the district clerk's office supply account and suspend our policy on that issue.
Second.
To authorize the county clerk's office to purchase signature facsimile stamps for the incoming district clerk in an amount up to $2,500 to be paid out of an account from the district clerk's supply account. Second by Commissioner Samuelson.
Is the county clerk's office going to purchase those, or the district clerk's office?
The district clerk. Did I say county?
Well, the,
What it says.
yeah. Says authorize the county clerk's office to purchase them. It'd be authorize the district clerk's office to purchase, right? Am I clear on that?
Yeah, I'm looking at that. It should be the district clerks, isn't it?
Well, let me add this. So Dean helped with the county clerks and also the district clerks, didn't he, with the stamps? Okay, so if they can come through your office? All right, well then I'll amend that to say
District clerks.
the district clerk's office.
Okay. Same motion with district clerk's office. Thank you, Roberta. Okay. Second by Commissioner Samuelson. Any further discussion? All those approved, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously 5-0. Item number 11, discuss and take appropriate action to release and post on the county website the result of the sound study done on the Marathon Bitcoin mining facility.
Okay, I put this on there primarily because I had received numerous calls from citizens saying they could not, it wasn't there or they couldn't find it. Yeah, it was actually put on the website on November 20th, but it was buried deep. It has now been moved to a easy access on the commissioner's page on the county website. It's actually on the little tab on the left, so it is there now for anybody that wants to look at it. The sound study can see it.
If I may correct you a little bit, I requested that the sound study be posted on the website on November the 5th, and you can look at my IT request if you feel you need to, but it was out there on November the 5th. When I received the sound study, when it was completed and I received it, a copy was sent to our purchasing department, Glenn and myself, and I reached out to Mr. McCabe, and asked him when he would be available to come to court, either in person or by Zoom, to go over the study with us. And he said that wasn't part of his contract and that we would need to pay extra for that. So knowing that, I just reached out to IT and said, would you please post this on our website so that everyone can read it to avoid the additional charge. I also forwarded a copy to Mr. Mills and a couple of the people who have been, as you all know, well involved in the immersed in the sound and affected by the sound that's coming from the plant or from the data center. The report does give us additional information that can be communicated to our elected officials in Austin. Oh, by the way, IT, if you're over there, Ashley or Owen, or would you please pull up that link? So if you do a search on sound or crypto or any of those things on our website, it will take you directly to this study. On page 5, there's information about what other jurisdictions deem reasonable for residential day and night sound levels, and it's very telling. The 85 decibel limit set by our state on our state penal code is for industrial noise, and when a person would be required to wear hearing protection. That is just not reasonable for people to live with. The chart shows that the 2 sound meters that were set at locations over 3 days were consistently above what other jurisdictions hold as reasonable for day and night, well over the nighttime. Page 5. Yeah, so right here in the summary, it talks about 55 dBA and 50 at night. So it's out there. Anyone is welcome to review it, use it. We will be able to, or I will, I'm going to go ahead and send this information to the legislators that I've been in contact with. As you know, I went down and spoke with Mr. Highsmith, who's here in the audience today, with several people on a Senate committee about this, along with I see our city council member from Somerville out. She was also there when we went down to Austin to talk about this. And so this will be additional information that we can forward to them on what other jurisdictions deem reasonable for residential. So that's, thank you for putting this on the agenda to give us the ability to talk about it. Did you?
First of all, it was in the Hood County newspaper also. The whole study was reported in the Hood County newspaper this past Saturday on the thing. But the big thing is that everybody was saying that the sound level exceeded the 85 decibels. That's the legal limit, right? Mr. Hightower, you was up there. But in reading the report that I read, all of the sound tests that were conducted by this study showed that it was well below the 85 decibels on all the times on the deal with that I saw. Do you agree with that? I will speak to that. It is. So I'm not, yeah. I mean, this was the impartial study that we had. I mean, Marathon did one that showed the same thing, but we wanted to make sure that it was, so that's why the Commissioner Court voted to go ahead and pay for the cost of it, which was what? I forgot.
$5,500 with a $3,000 retainer, $2,500 invoices yet to be received.
Yeah, so I guess we still owe some money on that, but the sound coming from the Marathon Bitcoin Company is well below the state level. So, I don't know. Anyway, well, it's all out there now.
Do you have any speakers?
No other action at this point.
Oh, yeah, we got a bunch of speakers here. So.
Yeah, can I ask Commissioner Samuelson, this is dated, the study's dated November the 1st?
Yes.
Where did you post that?
I posted it. I sent a note to our IT group on November the 5th, asking for it to be put out on Commissioner 2 link. There was already a tab called cryptocurrency because we had some of the news articles that have been done and the video from the doctor in Portugal that's the expert on sound. We had her video out there, so we already had a tab called cryptocurrency, so I just asked him to put it there on November the 4th. But then when I went to look at it a week or two later, it was not real easy to find, so I asked him to make it more visible, and that was on November 21st. So did that answer your question?
Okay, Speaker. Donna Adair.
Good morning. I'm not sure exactly what can be said.
Pull the microphone down so you can sit down. There you go.
I'm not sure what exactly can be said or can't be said, so this is just from me. But I want to wholeheartedly thank Commissioner Samuelson for all of her work, effort, time to help us who live out there with this monstrosity. And I want to thank Commissioner Andrews for letting us have this sound study because it wasn't looking real favorable, and Commissioner Eagle. I appreciate all y'all for caring. I did go through the sound study on the internet. Some things I noticed, and I'm going to read from this because I get off track. And this is from an uninformed layman's perspective. I think I've already made that pretty clear. I'm not real smart about this. But it does say HGC, the company that monitored, they stated that they only monitored the area for 4 days. And then they stated, thus it could not be confirmed that the mine was operating in a typical fashion during the measurement and monitoring period. Then why would they continue if they couldn't even say that it was running? This under their site description and surroundings, they give a description, and with Glen Rose typed as GEN Rose, and Mitchell Bend misspelled MITCHEL. That may be nitpicky, but I would think a professional company would have the names right. It also says it is understood that complaints related to the noise from the mine have been raised for some time. And what bearing does that have on the site description and surrounding? And it also says, the study says, in response, the operator has begun construction of a tall barrier wall around a portion of the site perimeter. A wall on the east side of the site appeared to be largely complete during the October 8, 2024 visit, with work underway to construct an additional wall to the north. It is also understood that the mine operator has begun installing liquid immersion cooling systems at the facility, which are thought to be quieter than other cooling systems. And to me, I'm wondering how this seemingly personal opinion pertains to the site description and surroundings. Sounds to me like that company was championing the cause for Marathon Digital and giving their opinions. But then again, I don't know. By the way, the wall does not work, if anybody cares. They also say, however, several measurements were also conducted along the public roadways adjacent to the mine and power plants. But yet Marathon Digital didn't know that they were there and hadn't learned of their study or presence. I would think that in order to do a more comprehensive, professional, and thorough sound study, a period more than 4 consecutive days would be required. But what do I know? I only have to live with it. But thank you, Nanette. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. All right, Jim Bell.
I was able to download. Can y'all hear me all right? I was able to download the sound study from the website. It took me a while to find it, but I was able to find it. But this entire scenario around the Bitcoin noise and all that, it's focused on the wrong angle, if you ask me. All of our sound requirements, not just here, everywhere, they're all based on protecting our hearing. Every single bit is based on protecting our hearing. So they use these scales of decibels, and these decibel scales, they come in 3 increments, dBA, dBB, dBC. dBA measures the lowest frequency, but it stops measuring at 20 hertz. Anything below that, we don't really hear. But there's evidence that there's health problems coming from this sound, and the evidence points to the fact that the sound waves that's causing these problems are below the spectrum of sound that we can hear, below 20 hertz. Now, the expert, part of the problem is the world's most foremost expert on this kind of stuff is not in the United States. She's in Portugal. Her name is Dr. Mariana Alves Pereira. I hope I pronounce it right. Probably not. But I've been in contact with her through email, and I was even on a video conference with her about this particular issue. And she uses the term infrasound to describe the sound waves below the spectrum that we can hear, below 20 hertz. She calls that ultra-low frequency sound or ultra-low frequency noise, which she refers to as infrasound. In over 30 years, she and her colleagues and her team have been researching this kind of data. You cannot do a Google search about infrasound, you cannot do a Google search about ultra-low frequency noise and come up with documentation that her name's not attached to it either as an author or a co-contributor. And they date back decades. So she's clearly, and her credentials are on what I passed out. They're on page 1. There is a link. The top link on this front page is to a lecture she did in Slovenia. I don't even know if I spelled that right, but it was to a group of scientists on this subject. Then the second link is a link. That link is an interview of her conducted by a journalist from Finland. Neither one of these links are really new. They're pretty old. But she and her team have come up with the description of this kind of frequency sound as an agent of disease, but it's more than just a disease. It's a category of causation. And I'm running out of time, so I'll tell you this. All the wildlife in this area near the Wolf Hollow plant has gone away. There's no coyotes. Cheryl Shadden, who lives right across the street from there, has only seen one snake this year. She's lost a horse. Other people in the area have lost horses and dogs. These people are having serious health issues that are not related to their hearing. None of the coyotes are there. None of the wild hogs are there. Many species of birds are gone now. All of the wildlife that used to be in that area when these residents bought their homes, it has left. So this sound study, and I don't object to it being posted here. I mean, she said it's a good study, except for the statement on page 9 that said there was no infrasonic noise detected. They used the dBA scale. That scale doesn't measure that. It doesn't even attempt to. So this scale, this sound study, it's not complete enough. It needs to be conducted with different equipment that can detect sound waves below what we can hear.
you.
The next speaker is John
Good morning. I'm John Highsmith, live in Pecan Plantation. I'm here to speak on this Bitcoin noise sound study. And I just want to remind everyone, only 15 days until Christmas.
Thank you.
So with that in mind, I'd like to first look at the definition of what a neighbor is. Because what we're really talking about here is we get into a lot of technical stuff, but it's all about the effects this is having on the people over in Mitchell Bend. And I looked it up. I like to research stuff, so I said, okay, let's look up what a definition of a neighbor is. And what I found was in a philosophical and ethical context, in a broader philosophical or ethical sense, the concept of a neighbor extends to the idea of caring for others regardless of their physical proximity. This perspective is often encapsulated in moral teachings that emphasize compassion and kindness toward all individuals. And I'd say the people living in Mitchell Bend are our neighbors. They're still suffering from the excessive sound from Mara Bitcoin mining. I live in Pecan Plantation, and I can tell you the Bitcoin noise is louder than ever. In fact, I went out and went outside last night and just listened for it. And yes, it is. That's still a true statement. Certainly nothing like the county sound study indicates. So I guess I'm here to really caution everyone not to just take this study and run with it. It's got some issues. Residents are having more health problems such as hearing loss, not only hearing loss. One resident who lives across Mitchell Highway from Mara was care flighted to Fort Worth last Thursday. And another resident who also lives across Mitchell Highway from Mara will undergo surgery this Friday. So the excessive sound goes on, and our neighbors continue to suffer. And in October, Mara was moving units, changing units to vertical fans, constructing a wall, dealing with introducing immersion cooling, a lot of technical issues that they were doing at the site. During that time period, units were shut down. Now, obviously, we don't know exactly when because Mara doesn't notify us of this, but that's our observation. So 2 things on the sound study. The study showed that the Bitcoin mining units were turned off. When the units were turned off, noise is dramatically reduced. I think you can certainly say that. And I think that's what we had going on. We had some of the units that were turned off. Number 2, and I think one of the previous speakers said the company doing the study never did go out and ascertain with residents, is this noise as loud as it has been, or make any kind of determination about that. And the microphones, number 2, microphones were placed on the ground instead of 5 feet off the ground. In fact, one of the microphones was chained to a mailbox at ground level located on the contrary road side of their house. So in other words, you had a house in between the Mara and the microphone for the sound study. So I think that certainly you would have some questions about this. And when you research, in general for sound studies, what the height should be for the microphones, it says approximately 1.5 meters, 5 feet above the ground. So that's certainly a big question here. So I just close by saying I don't think you should tout this study as proof the problem has gone away. It has not, and our neighbors in Mitchell Bend are still hurting. Thank you. Yes.
I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
On this this document that your predecessor just handed us, it says this is according to the PhD lady from
Portugal.
Portugal. It says the frequencies below what humans can hear can produce much more devastating harm to human health than sound frequencies which we can hear when humans are exposed to these frequencies for extended periods of time. And my question, it says, and these effects can be much more devastating to our health than mere hearing loss. And so the question this begs for me is y'all keep coming, there's a contingency out here that says y'all are just imagining all this,
Right.
apparently.
Right.
And I find that hard to believe when you keep coming in here, when this issue seems to be at the forefront. And it sounds to me like more intensive study needs to be done, because y'all aren't up here just for the heck of it, and I recognize that.
I appreciate
So
that.
I appreciate y'all coming to address this today. I'm glad Commissioner Wilson put this on the agenda to give you an opportunity to come up here and speak to it again. So thank you.
May I comment on your comment?
Yes, sir.
This is very much like cigarette smoking was in the 60s. Very, very similar. I can still remember the advertisements of the guy on the horse and doctors smoking and all this kind of stuff, and it's great for you. You should have a cigarette to relax. It's good for your health. And of course, we know that was all nonsense. But in those early days, people didn't understand. I think the cigarette companies, it was proven they understood. And I think this is what we're going to see more and more of this, because the thing that you've got going on is you've got these companies out there that are operating 24/7. They don't shut down at 5 o'clock. And also they're putting them in areas where there are no regulations where you can control these things. So,
Well, we just had in a similar note, we just had a issue come up at the last Commissioners Court that's becoming high on the agenda line of biosolids.
yes.
And the companies are, acting like there's no harm in it. Of course they're going to say that. That's how they make their money. But it's becoming more and more apparent that we're being onslaughted with all these different issues, and it's hurting our health as we go along. So anyway, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Steve Conrad.
Hey, good morning. I'm Dee Conrad. I sit on City Council in the city of Glen Rose, and I've had the honor of being invited and being able to attend many of the meetings that have been held, town hall meetings, et cetera. That's where I was introduced to Commissioner Samuelson and Commissioner Eagle. I've seen them at most of those events. I want to start by thanking this court. You guys, Granbury is really a canary in a coal mine. The state opened up crypto when China said, you can't be here anymore. And my gosh, if China doesn't want somebody doing something there, eek, they aren't known to be compassionate for their citizens. So when they said, no, you gotta go, and our state opened our arms wide open and said, come on here, big mistake we made on not doing our due diligence as a state. I'm gonna choose to believe that that wasn't intentional. It was just a matter of, hey, we're a free market state and we welcome free markets. But now we're starting to learn. and Granbury and Hood County have really been at the forefront of identifying and realizing a little bit too late exactly what the issues are. So I want to thank this court for taking the time and spending the money, because I know as somebody who does the budgets for our city that you've got to account for every dime and where it goes, and you've got to make a really strong business case for that. And so you guys have done that, and it's been really beneficial even beyond Hood County. This 85 decibel thing is ridiculous. Again, so frankly speaking, anyone who mimics or leverages that number as justification that this is okay is part of the problem, because this is a completely irrelevant number. This 85 decibel is related to businesses, where you work, do you need to wear headphones, and it also talks about how long it needs to go down depending on your exposure. It is not talking about sleep. It is not talking about your piece of life every single day. It is not talking about sitting on your porch and drinking a cup of coffee. It's talking about a work environment and what's a healthy work environment. It certainly isn't talking about the low decibels. It certainly isn't talking about those frequencies that are hitting people's bodies. So the case that you'll often hear from what I call the Bitcoin bros are the examples of how there haven't been any studies that prove the harm of this. And so they will point to, hey, well, there hasn't been a study showing that being across from 60,000 fans is going to be dangerous. Or, you know, there isn't a constant conversation about the low frequencies. But just because there hasn't been something about a particular industry doesn't mean that there haven't been those conversations. Sleep is a human right, and its deprivation is torture. That's from the Journal of Ethics. Why sleep deprivation is torture, Psychology Today. Sleep deprivation is torture, bioethics from the Harvard Business School. So do they say that noise from Bitcoin is torture? No. Do they say that sleep is torture? Absolutely. In fact, some of you may remember as part of the Abu Ghraib and after our entanglement in Iraq, one of the things that we looked at ethically is, as a country, can we use deprivation of sleep to try to get information from terrorists? And we decided that even terrorists deserve to get to sleep. I'm going to say that again. Even terrorists deserve to get to sleep. If terrorists deserve to get to sleep, then by golly, people who sold everything that they own to move to this beautiful county, to be next to the beautiful lake that's here, and they came here for the peace and the quiet, they deserve an opportunity to get that. Now, here's what I know. You guys are hamstrung. I'm well aware that the state has taken away nearly everything that you have, every component, every lever you may possibly have to pull. So they are the ones that have fallen short of their dedication and their commitment to our residents. But simply the act of you guys starting by doing this sound study, and potentially, I agree, a need for more, you aren't just helping your residents, which you have an obligation to do, but you're also helping the entirety of this state. And so this kind of information, while we look and say, oh, well, it only shows 69, it doesn't show 85. I invite you to go sleep at one of those houses for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks and see how you feel about that decibel of 69. So even if we choose to believe that this is accurate, it's still unacceptable. And so thank y'all for doing this, because this now empowers us. I did get to go down. I did get to talk to many of our representatives on both sides of the aisle, and God willing, we actually have something that both sides of the aisle agree on. When does that ever happen? So thank you for doing this, because this allows us to go to the state and say, okay, 85 is what we've used based on OSHA requirements for work where you're going to be somewhere for 8 hours of less. You've now shown that things as low as 45 or 50 or 55 or 69 is still too high for 24 hours. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
That concludes our speakers on this topic. So the next item, discuss and take appropriate action regarding miscellaneous business to be discussed and considered for approval during the December 20th, 2024 Commissioners Court. Please explain what you mean by that, Commissioner Eagle.
Well, December the 20th is the week we moved the Commissioners Court to December 20th instead of normally what would be the fourth Tuesday. And I just put this on here to talk about, can we just do consent agenda item stuff and kind of make it as abbreviated a court as we can make it and stay within the parameters of getting our business done. That's all I put this on here for, is just to make that plea to the court that we could just take care of consent agenda business and pay the bills and try to refrain from some other stuff. Well,
I think that's a good idea. Almost every Commissioners Court meeting, a lot of this stuff could be done in committees and working with department head and not having to air this out in front of all the department's head and wasting all this time. But that's just me. But how do we know what's going to come up between now and December the 20th? There may be something that the auditor or the treasurer or the purchasing agent or somebody else needs. I mean, we can't do that. I think everybody needs to take a hard look at it. I'm certainly for that. But if somebody comes up with something that has to be heard by December the 20th. I don't think we can say we're not going to hear that.
And I'm not suggesting that we do that.
I know I've already got one item that's, people approached me that will be on the agenda for the 20th that needs to be aired.
Okay. Anybody have anything else to say about 12? Okay, if not, number 13 is the update on the court on the grants and grant writer position. No action is needed. We're going to take that into executive session also, okay? So that brings us to the consent agenda, and Glenn Tillman has informed me that he has pulled the 2 items regarding purchasing from the consent agenda. So with that change, do any other commissioner wishes to pull anything or question anything on the consent agenda?
Did that list make it to the consent agenda? Okay, all right. With that, I'll move that we approve the consent agenda.
A motion been made by Commissioner Andrews to approve the consent agenda, second by Commissioner Wilson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, Mr. Don Lenny, no road ops, so we got development. Mr. Clint Head, discuss and consider the final plat of Fairview Ranches, lots 1 through 4, block 1. Yes, sir.
This final plat is in Precinct 4 and is the subdivision of a 25.874 acres tract that is part of the John Schroeder Survey Abstract Number 505. And proposed plat will be dedicating 0.919 of an acre for right-of-way along Bandy Road. The proposed plat partially lies in the Road Corridor District and partially in the Water Quality District, and is creating 4 lots ranging from 2.079 acres to 10.29 acres that will be served by private well and on-site sewage facilities. The proposed lots will be accessing existing Bandy Road or Weatherford Highway if permitted by TxDOT. All comments have been addressed, and staff recommends approval as presented.
Your motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the final plat of Fairview Ranches, lots 1 through 4, block 1.
Motion been made by Commissioner Eagle to approve the final plat of Fairview Ranches, lots 1 through 4, block 1, second by Commissioner Wilson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion approved unanimously 5-0. Next, discuss and consider the final plat of Bynum River Ranch, lot 1, block 1.
This final plat is in Precinct 1 and is a subdivision, is the platting of a 6.634 acres tract, which is part of the Pleasant Thorpe Survey Abstract Number 560. This proposed plat lies in the Water Quality District and will be served by private well and on-site sewage facilities, and will be accessing Tin Top Highway.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. We approve the final plat of Bynum River Ranch, lot 1, block 1.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Andrews to approve the final plat of Bynum River Ranch, lot 1, block 1, second by Commissioner Eagle. Any further comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously 5-0.
Thank you.
Brings us to financial. Ms. Stephanie Matlock.
Good morning. We are on to new budget only. So my office has reviewed all the invoices in the amount of $1,729,499.78 and recommends the court approves, or my office approves and recommends payment, excuse me.
Recommend paying the invoices in the amount of $1,729,499.78.
Second.
Motion been made by Commissioner Samuelson to approve the invoices for the period of $1,729,499.78, second by Commissioner Wilson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously 5-0. So at this time, at 10:35, Commissioner Court is adjourning into executive session. All right, it is now 8:40. minutes after 11. We are back into Commissioners Court. No action was taken in executive session, and we are going to discuss the grant writer position. Commissioner Eagle.
Okay, I've just wanted to report that this past August, I did go down to Austin to a legislative update session, 2.5 days, but one of the modules that we attended was about the grant writing process, and I met with I spoke yesterday. I've been trying to get hold of her earlier, but we finally connected yesterday. Her name is Robin Knipling, and she is, I can give you her contact info. She is a grant writer out of Victoria County and Victoria, Texas. She was one of the presenters in Austin. Victoria County, for a demographics standpoint, they're 91,000 roughly population, so not too much bigger than us. She is under administrative services. They've got a kind of a module department called administrative services. I asked her about, you know, where do grant writers usually find themselves, under who or what, and it's kind of apparently there are not, it's not like there's grant writer school, and so it's she's working with TAC actually to get some, try to get a module or two to teach people how to be a grant writer. But she mentioned that she's under the engineering department, by the way, interestingly, under the county engineer. We don't have one of those. But she, there's one of the people that was down there is a guy named Robert Cordell. He works for the governor's office, and the governor's office actually has a grant writing website you can go to for state grants. It's called eGrant, and most of those, she said, have to do with law enforcement type of grants, but that's a resource that she talked about. But she said a big majority of the grants that they're working on, of course, they're down at the coast, but or hazard mitigation grants in those categories. And then she mentioned about, you know, you may want to consider using a consultant. You know, and we talked about that, I think, a little bit about, do we actually hire a grant writer or do we use a consultant? And so that's another thing to look at. But she says that TAC, that they're working on a listserv with TAC for the grant writers too. Have you seen anything like that? So anyway, basically I'm just trying to give you some general information. I do like the idea of since we're the grant writers in your direction now, if you get to a pool of applicants that you narrow it down to 2 or 3 or whatever you think, running interference, if the court could look at them and we could kind of do it, like you say, as a collaborative way to do it, I think that would be a good idea. But that's kind of my input, just general, that I think the grant writing, it's not like there's professional grant writers out there. There are these consultants that do it for a fee, and it's usually a fee that goes along, like a commission that goes along if you get the grant. So just putting that on the table, and Ms. Knipling offered that, you know, if you want to call her or talk to her, that she would be happy to chat with you. She's very, very informative. So that's what I had to add to this equation.
Anybody have anything else they need to talk about? If not, well, at 11:12, then I adjourn this Commissioners Court. Thank you all.